To introduce myself, Brandon Vancleeve here, Vice President of Pine Cove Consulting. And we have Darren, Sharon, and Stephanie on from Ruckus. And we're going to be talking about Cloudpath today. And first off, I want to thank everyone for joining us. As many of you that are on this come to almost all of our webinars, I appreciate that. And we're trying to do one of these a month, as you've seen throughout the year. And we're focusing on Ruckus here, and specifically the Cloudpath product, which we're really excited about. Just did a very large deployment here in Montana, and excited to get this to all of our customers. And I think the important thing to note here is this is a solution that is agnostic to what you have from a wired and wireless solution currently. So and keep that in mind as you're thinking, whatever you have currently in your environment from a solution standpoint, this can bolt on to any of those things. So as always in all of our presentations, we want feedback, questions. We want to make this as interactive as we can. So please post your questions down below in the questions tab on the GoToWebinar interface, and I will plug those in when appropriate. So as we always do, I'm going to give a couple quick slides of who we are in case there's anyone on here that doesn't know who Pine Cove is. And then I'm going to kick it over to Darren, and Darren's going to go through some conceptual design slides. And then hopefully we'll have time for Sharon to actually get into the portal and show some demo of the actual product. So if that sounds good with everyone, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So hopefully you can see my screen. Just a quick who is Pine Cove. So we're an IT consulting company based out of Bozeman. 24 years in the industry, and really have had a strong focus in the public sector market. We work with a lot of schools and a lot of public entities. We work with private entities as well. But you can see kind of we have a pretty big geographical footprint, and we've been doing this a long time. So big cybersecurity infrastructure focus. Do a lot of cybersecurity and kind of protecting the network, and this goes hand in hand with that. We've won some national awards. We serve on some national councils, some local security councils, and we service about 20,000 users a day. So we're out there seeing a lot of things and are really trying to bring to our customers and new customers what we think is the best of breed across all the different platforms that we're trying to provide. So with that, that's the lowest amount of slides I've ever had, so you guys are in luck today. I'll kick it over to Darren, and I'll let Darren get started on his presentation.
Excellent. Thank you, Brandon.
You bet. And where'd you go? There you are.
All right.
I'm sure that's the right Darren.
Looks like it is. Let me start the slideshow for us.
We got you.
All right. Perfect. Thanks again, Brandon. So yeah, my name is Darren Miser. I am the Territory Account Manager for Utah, Idaho, Montana, and Western Wyoming, working with Pine Cove, which has been a great partner of ours in that region. Sharon Mahedevin is on the line as well. He's my systems engineer. Sharon's the guy that keeps me honest, does a great job supporting the territory. Great resource. So how Sharon and I usually do these presentations is we'll kind of bounce back and forth. I'll give high-level conceptual information, and then Sharon will add the technical knowledge as needed. So let's get started on Cloudpath. So to start things off, let's talk a little bit about the network of the past, the network of today, and then the network of the future as far as Cloudpath is concerned. So as the people on the phone or on this call, I'm sure know, yesterday's network was pretty rudimentary. Really, you had IT assets that you could lock down. You had guests that would get on the network, but there was no real strong security components. It was, share a password on a whiteboard or pass it on a sticky note. That is not security. We all know that. Going back to the days of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you can't really open a drawer in the principal's office and grab a pre-shared key anymore. So today's network, we're seeing obviously a change in the devices on the network. You guys are seeing this every day. Not only do we have short-term guests, we have staff who's bringing their own devices, students bringing their own devices, contractors coming and going, your IT assets. So we need to figure out a way to secure all of those components on the network, both wireless and wired, and Cloudpath allows us to do that. So you can set up different policies for different components or different people who are accessing your network, and you can deploy this easily with AAA, gold standard security, and we'll get into showing you how you can do that. So here's a little graphic on Cloudpath. Again, we have all these different folks getting on the network. Different policies need to be in place for each of those folks. So as a Cloudpath owner or administrator of Cloudpath, when you deploy this, you can have different privileges for your guests, for your staff, for your students, BYOD privileges versus IT assets that you own and control, and have all of this easily secured. So rogue devices and rogue people are not getting on your network or in areas of the network that they shouldn't be in. So let's kind of get into the meat of things. Oh, sorry, Sharon, anything you want to add here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. So I just want to add a point that it's not just the types of users who are different these days. It's also the types of devices. Because back in the days, we all had just the Windows domain-owned devices, and these days we know that with schools you have MacBooks and Apple iPads and Chromebooks and bring your own devices. So there's like millions of devices coming into the network, and how are we going to treat all these devices differently, because we don't want the same type of policies for all devices.
Exactly. Great, thank you, Sharon. So the challenges that Cloudpath is trying to solve, again, we want to get those clients on the network securely, and we don't want to do it with passwords or pre-shared keys. We want to look at a more robust option for that, certificate-based, if you will. We want to keep those non-compliant devices off the network. You want to be able to see, lock down the network so you don't have those rogue devices. Eliminating the pain of passwords, I think everyone on this call can probably agree that password resets and those issues take up way too much time and make things just cumbersome for handling a network and keeping things secure. So we want it set it and forget it simple. Really, Cloudpath is something that you guys can deploy. It's based on workflows. It's very easy to deploy. We'll show you a little demo here a little later on how that works. And it's something that once it's in place, it's a set it and forget it, but very, very secure solution.
Okay, I would like to add a point there. Sorry, Darren, can you please go back?
You bet.
Yeah. So I just want to add a point here that when you say that it's a secure Wi-Fi, or when you say it's going to be a gold standard, so securing Wi-Fi, it's not just having a MAC authentication or having a guest portal, maybe like a captive portal collecting your username and password, or even with a pre-shared key with more than 10 devices or 10 users sharing the same pre-shared key. It's no longer secure, because layer 2, layer 1, this is where a lot of man-in-the-middle attacks and a lot of hacking could happen. And your NACs and MDMs usually support the layer 4 to layer 7. So the place where you really need support with layer 3, layer 2, layer 1, that's where Cloudpath comes into play. And the gold standard for security is using Radius and and using WPA2 Enterprise for that.
Exactly. Thank you, Sharon. So what is Cloudpath? Cloudpath essentially is a secure onboarding system that's certificate-based. So it's pushing your certificate out to the end user devices, and you, as the Cloudpath administrator, control those certificates. So if you look at the graphic here, it's certificate management, security management, policy management. So you set the policies for each of those certificates and decide where those users go on the network, what kind of access they have. So you can set up certificates for guests. They have a certain access level. Students would have a certain access level. Contractors would be given a certain access level. And these certificates, again, they're controlled by you. The policies are controlled by you, and the duration is controlled by you. So these certificates can be revoked at any time. They can be tracked. You can receive information on what people are doing on the network. So again, it's a robust solution that's easy to deploy and certificate-based. So it allows for device enablement and onboarding as well. So deployment options for Cloudpath. It is available as a public cloud deployed solution that you can access, or you can have it on-premise as a VM software solution. We have different licensing options as well. So if it's cloud-based, of course, it's going to be a subscription, kind of all-inclusive to that cloud subscription. And then on-prem, you can have a subscription-based model or a perpetual model where you buy the licenses one time and then just have to keep support. One thing to point out on the slide you see at the bottom, Cloudpath is 100% vendor agnostic. Some folks, some of the competition claims to be vendor agnostic, but Cloudpath truly is designed to work with any other vendor's wireless or switching topology.
And Darren, I would like to add a point here. By also saying 100% vendor agnostic, we keep the product management and the tech support, everything completely separate. So these guys are based in an office in Denver, and they are completely separate from our Ruckus. So we keep the product development and the tech support completely separate so that we can support every other manufacturer as well.
Wonderful, thank you. So going back to what we've kind of been touching on lightly, going in a little deeper. So again, you can set up these different policies for different devices, different users, whether it's Google Chromebooks, Apple devices, Android, BYOD, corporate versus guest. So again, different policies for different customers. And Sharon, I think you had some stuff you wanted to add here on this slide as well. We talked earlier.
Yeah, definitely. So role-based access control, as much as it's important in wired network, it's also important in the wireless network. So this can definitely help to have an active directory integration and also do a radius-based access control, so that based on how they are authenticated, even they use the same username and password for their bring your own devices and school-owned devices, they are going to be treated different, and they don't get the same level of treatment.
So as far as device enablement, Cloudpath, what it is and what it isn't, it does posture check. So it's a NAC light, if you will. It's not a persistent posture check. But in the time that we've been selling this product, Sharon and I, we've talked to a lot of customers, and there was one example of a college in Montana that's using Cloudpath, and they pointed out the fact that a persistent NAC can actually be very cumbersome. You know, as things change on devices, maybe something falls out of a security firmware update. If you have a persistent NAC, that can really wreak havoc on the network. So we're not against that, of course, but just know that Cloudpath provides that posture check initially when the certificate is pushed, but it will not be a persistent NAC as the devices are on the network. It only posture checks each time that user has to re-authenticate or authenticate the first time, I guess, if you will. One thing also to note on this, please, yeah, go ahead.
So I just want to add a point to that posturing, is that it's not just posturing, but on top of posturing, we also do the remediation, where if we find that the Windows firewall is turned off or some kind of application is installed, we will ask them to uninstall the app, we'll ask them to uninstall the unsecure application, or turn on Windows Update, or turn on Windows Firewall, stuff like that. So, and if they don't do it, that means that the particular device is not healthy enough to come into our device. Come into our network.
Yes, excellent point. Yeah, we don't want devices on the network that are out of compliance. So, to Sharon's point, you can set in place certain parameters. They have to have a certain malware installed, a certain, let's say, iOS version installed, or they won't be allowed on the network. So great point, Sharon. And one thing to point out too is Cloudpath also has integration with Google Console. We have some hooks into that that are unique to Cloudpath. I'm not going to say it's just a seamless transition and Chromebooks can be on without any touching, but we do have some nice integration that we can talk about on an individual level if anyone's interested in that conversation. And then integration with MDM vendors. Sharon, do you want to touch on this piece a little bit?
Yeah. So definitely. So we have features from MDM and NAC integrated into this feature. But in case if you already own an MDM or NAC, we can definitely integrate it. We also have integration with firewall vendors like iBoss and Lightspeed. So we have integration with third party completely integrated. So based on what kind of integration it is, there is a different use case for each and everything. If that's going to be an MDM, we provide more information than what MDM can see. The same thing with firewall. We are integrated with Palo Alto, where Palo Alto typically cannot see the username and the type of device and everything associated, everything tied together. We provide information that if this is a particular device, what user that is registered to, how long that is valid for, what's the MAC address, and every information possible tied together and provided to the firewall or the MDM.
Excellent, thank you. And one thing also to point out before we move off this slide is user IT or distributor provisions. One use case that's popular with Cloudpath is actually having folks pre-board or onboard their devices before they arrive, say, on campus. If we're looking at a school district, you could actually have a welcome package sent to families of students who are enrolled in school prior to the start date of the school year and have them pre-enroll their devices, direct them towards a web portal where they can enroll their devices for the year. They can be posture checked and they can be ready to go day one, so you don't have that those issues of passwords and getting on the network on the first day of school, which can be cumbersome. So certificate management, again, unique certificates are applied to each end user's device. You control those policies when you push those certificates, and then you can manage those certificates. So visibility into devices allows you to see who's on the network, what they're doing, where they're going, and the status of that certificate. And again, you can revoke that certificate at any time. You can set an automatic duration. So how you view certificates basically is you'd have a pool of certificates for devices are going to be on the network, so your students, your staff, those devices, and then you can also provision for a pool of guest licenses if you want guests to have to securely onboard onto the network. So as the certificates deploy, that takes up a certificate license, and then once that certificate's revoked, it goes back into the pool and can be reused by any other user. So.
And Darren, I want to add one more point here, is that the main reason people stay away from certificate is because of the complexity of managing it and also complexity from a user point of view deploying it. So that's the main thing that we took when we designed this product to make it really simple. So it has an inbuilt CA, but if you want to integrate it with Microsoft CA, if you already own, you can do that. But the inbuilt PKI that we have is really simple and easy to manage and easy to install.
Yep. And again, those certificates, you can set the duration on those. So if you want a certificate for a contractor good for a day, you can set that for an 8-hour period. They onboard, receive that certificate, go throughout their work day. At the end of that day, that certificate automatically revokes. And if that contractor were to come back, they would not be allowed access to the network unless they re-onboarded. So to Sharon's point, gold standard security, but simple to deploy. Everyone knows that if you're going to have security, that's great, but if it's too cumbersome to deploy, it's not going to happen. So we make it easy to deploy with gold standard. With gold standard, I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Gold standard security in place. Excuse me for that one. So. Nonstop connectivity. Once you have that certificate and you're on board, again, there's no disruption. There's no need to reset passwords. We don't have to re-authenticate at any time. We only re-authenticate when that certificate expires. All right, so Cloudpath at a glance. I think Sharon, you're going to run through this one since it has a little more technical information that I think you wanted to cover.
Yep, definitely. So this is the most important slide of this, this particular presentation because this shows all the features that CloudPath has today, and we talked about the onboarding or the pre-boarding. So that's going to be a self-service. So that kind of eliminates the IT involved in onboarding or bringing a device into the network. So it's completely automated. Then we talked about the PKI because it has an inbuilt PKI, or it can integrate with Microsoft CA or any other certificate authority, but it's really super easy to use what's already pre-built. And we also have a radius server. So if you just look at this product, when we designed this 10 years back, is that we saw how can we secure the network? What are the important modules required? What are the important components required to secure the network? And we know that it needs to have radius, and it needs to have a CA. It needs to have an onboarding web server inside. And we tied up all these together. We took the radius server from free radius, and we took the CA and we took the web server, combined everything together, and built this product. So if you want to spend 6 months to 1 hour try to build your own stuff, you can definitely do it. But this has pre-built everything, bundle, really it's based on workflow, really easy to configure. And when I show the demo, I will show you how we can see the device visibility to see what are the what devices are currently on the network, what are the users currently enrolled, what are the devices not authorized or revoked, and stuff like that. And also the broad device support, which is super important because we see that each and every types of devices coming in, and it's very hard to keep up with the types of devices come in, and that's what we do. So rather than you guys managing that to make sure your network is compatible with any new types of devices or firmware updates coming in, we take care of that. In fact, one of our new customer wins is actually Netflix, where Netflix, obviously they have a lot of high-tech engineers who could build something like that. Then they decided that it's going to take a lot of their time to keep up with devices what their Netflix engineers would bring in. It's really they came to us and said, you guys do a good job, and this is your job, so we trust you guys to keep up with the devices and the firmware updates rather than them trying to do on their IT devices.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Anything else on this slide before I move on?
Nope, should be good.
All right. So solution partners, we touched on this earlier. Sharon had mentioned Palo Alto Networks. We provide some additional information that allow that firewall to work more efficiently. EduRoam, CloudPath has some nice integration with EduRoam as well. So I think that's an important one to have there. And we can, again, talk offline to any individual person on this phone or entity on this phone about EduRoam and some of these different integrations. Google Chromebooks is one to bring up as well. So we streamline that Chromebook integration process. And again, we have some additional hooks into Chromebooks that make it easier to deploy certificates on those devices through CloudPath versus any other certificate-based option out there. Also hooks into AirWatch and Lightspeed. Sharon, anything I'm missing on this slide that you might want to cover?
Just want to add a point on the Lightspeed. I know that most of the schools have Lightspeed, and where we provide value is that we integrate with cloud. So we actually integrate with Lightspeed, where Lightspeed now has the feature set to inspect each and every HTTPS page, and most of the websites are getting HTTPS, so it's important to have that encryption, decryption done at a local site, and Lightspeed gets more control than what it has today.
Excellent. So client support, as imagined, we support about everything out there. So this is just simply a slide illustrating the support for Chromebooks, iOS, Android, BlackBerry, you name it. All devices supported through CloudPath. We move into kind of just some maybe bragging slides, if you will. These are some CloudPath customers across the U.S. Some in our backyard here, Utah State or University of Utah, Utah Valley University, some other folks we also have in Montana. We have our folks up at, oh my word, Sharon, I'm sorry, I just blanked out on Carroll College.
Yep.
Customer up in Montana as well. So large deployments, one of the new, we don't have any of the commercial logos on this particular slide, but Sharon mentioned Netflix. We have Cloudpath deployed it in some very large installations, performing very well. So it's a very robust solution for both enterprise and smaller entities. Some unique features of Cloudpath. One big thing to point out that we like to point out when we really get into the differences of Cloudpath versus the competition is Cloudpath is user-based licenses. So I think that's a key thing to remember. With other solutions, it's licensed per device, where Cloudpath is licensed per user. So as everyone knows on this call, typical users can have 3 to 4 devices on them at any time. And so Cloudpath being user licensed, we don't have to worry about a license for each and every one of those devices, which makes it more affordable. Integrated guests and BYOD into this as well. For other solutions, in certain solutions, you have to purchase additional modules to integrate guests and BYOD devices. Vendor agnostic, we mentioned that before. Supports any WLAN solution. Can be private hosted, on-prem, or cloud offer. A simple provisioning through those configuration workflows that Sharon's going to touch on here in a little bit. And then, again, the flexible client support with Google Console integration. So a lot of things that Cloudpath offers, we feel like we have the best approach, the most flexible approach out there, and the most affordable too. And here's kind of a graph getting into pricing comparisons. So this is per user or end user count, total pricing. So you can see that Cloudpath in blue often comes in quite a bit less expensive than the competition. And frankly, it's easier to deploy. I don't believe in bashing the competition, but I've heard horror stories of weeks upon weeks of trying to implement certain solutions where Cloudpath is 75-page manual, and I think our friends at Pine Cove can attest to the fact that we've stood it up in just a couple days and had it working very well for customers.
Yeah, I think another thing on this is Brandon with Pine Cove. The biggest thing that surprised me was just the overall TCO on this product in general. And so I think even if you're kind of somewhat interested in this, I think understanding the pricing and the pricing model, and we can certainly have that discussion with you. Very affordable, almost to the point where it's really crazy not to take a good hard look at this, especially with it being agnostic to what you have. So yeah, I mean, when we want to talk pricing and all that, please let me know. But I think you'd be pleasantly surprised at what this even list price looks like with the Cloudpath product. So just want to add that.
Right. Certainly. Thank you, Brandon. So on this slide, we're going to just take a couple minutes to run through a demo of how it looks when a device onboards. So we have just a quick demo showing an actual onboarding of a Windows device, an iOS device, and then a Chrome device. So I will click on this and get us started with a Windows presentation. So this is a splash page that comes up. You can have your customers agree to the terms and conditions. You can customize that however you want to look. This just happens to be the Ruckus splash page. Customer enters their credentials, downloads the shim for their device. It's pushed to their device.
And this is a real-time recorded video, so this is exactly how that happens. It's really super fast to onboard a device.
Successfully connected, and it puts them on the proper SSID. So yeah, that's as simple as it is, really, and that's the one-time process. So again, if you folks want to make a certificate say good for a year, that would be the one-time process that your end customer would go through to onboard their device, and then they would not have to do that process again until they had to re-enroll. All right, and here's for an iOS device, I believe.
Yeah, can you go back?
Oh,
yeah,
yep. My apologies.
Yeah, you need to go and pick the second one.
Yeah, sorry about that. Here we go. Now here's an iOS device.
Yeah, so
page.
Sorry, I was going to add that in case of Apple, it's a little bit different. In case of an iPhone, it's going to be a profile. It doesn't install a certificate, but it's going to be a profile. So this will install like a profile out here, and if there is any kind of restriction, it will ask you to do it. And in case of Apple devices, including MacBook, it doesn't automatically put you into an SSID. It will let you know because of the security restrictions what Apple has introduced. You will have to go and manually pick the right SSID, which we will give you a notification that your device is compliant and your device is all set to connect to the network, and this is the SSID you need to join. In case of Windows or any kind of Android, it will automatically connect you in, but in case of Apple, you will have to manually do it.
Right. Thank you, Sean. Let me go back one more slide to another Chrome device.
Yeah, in case of Chrome, if that's a school-owned Chrome device which is shared by all students, and in that case, you can even do a device-based authentication using the MAC address, and you can do it just one time so that you don't want to make students go through the process each and every class. You can do it one time, and it could be valid for 6 months or 1 year, and that way you can make students share the devices as well.
Excellent. So that was kind of a quick run through of the onboarding. I can't guarantee that it'll always be that quick, but again, you can see that it's a very simple process, not terribly intrusive. But again, it allows you to have that secure onboarding through an easier to manage process where you're not, worried about passwords and onboarding each person individually. So why Cloudpath? Kind of a summary. World's most secure client authentication, certificate-based, based on Radius. Very easy to deploy and onboard. Elegant. Yeah, again, you can customize. You can make those splash pages look however you want. You can put up your own terms and conditions. And again, make that as easy to use as possible. Works in harmony with leading antivirus software. And again, we pointed this out a couple times, that unique integration with Google Chromebooks that, again, we're not going to say it's a cakewalk to get those devices onboarded, but we do have integration that makes it easier with Cloudpath than any other secure enrollment product out there. We give you the flexible options of on-premise versus cloud managed, and priced very aggressively. To Brandon's point, it's priced so well that it's almost a crime not to deploy Cloudpath on your network. With that, I think we'll, I don't know if we want to pause for questions or if we want to, actually, Sharon, I think we probably wanted to give control to you and have you go through what the back end of Cloudpath looks like as far as setting it up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if we have time, I will probably spend maybe like 10 minutes and leave the rest of the time for Q&A.
Cool. I just gave you the puck there, and then if anyone has questions, again, just want to remind you to throw them in the questions tab, and we'll make sure we get them answered with the team.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
We can. Yep.
Okay. All right. So this is how the Cloudpath looks like, and this is actually a cloud-hosted version that I use for my demo. So it doesn't have any kind of access point connected to it right today. So it doesn't have any users, so I will not be able to show you the list of users. But I also have another system where more users are connected and more devices are enrolled. I will show you how that looks like. But this is my demo system. I will show you some of the workflows and some of the places where you would spend your, if you have the system, this is where you would spend your on a daily basis. Once you have it configured, then you come in. So this is the dashboard, And if you have a system up and running and you have clients connected and you have students connected to it, so if you come to the connections tab, it will show you the list of active users at any particular instance. So this shows you maybe you have like 100 different users. Usually if they use a preset key or something, so usually you will not see all information who that user is. It probably shows you a MAC address or something like that, but this gives you all information because any type of user, any type of device would have gone through the onboarding process where they would have identified themselves and authenticated. So it gives you all information on who the user is, what kind of SSID they have joined, and how long ago they joined, and stuff like that. This is a cool place, like every morning you come in, this is a place where you could come and check. And enrollment, this shows you all the valid certificate issued at any particular instant. So if you have revoked any certificate, you can go and check it out. Or if you see all the certificate over here, these are the issued certificate in the past 2 years. Obviously I don't have so many certificate issued, it's my demo system, but if that's going to be like a month, I don't have any. So this was set up 6 months back, so I have all these certificates. If you want to click anyone, you can also go and check what type of device, what type of operating system was used, what browser was used, what MAC address, all the information that we collected during the onboarding process, like my laptop type, operating system, browser type, whatever you want to collect, you can collect all those information from here. Users and devices, these are the authenticated users. For instance, if that's a guest, you want to see if someone used a Facebook to log in. For instance, this is my Facebook login profile. I can just go and see any information which is collected through that. It could be a LinkedIn, it could be a Google-based, Gmail-based authentication. You can see all those stuff here. Certificate. So if you want to revoke a certificate, for instance, you want to you know that you want to kick some users out or something like that, you can just go here and revoke a certificate from here. But it also shows you all the certificates, like revoked certificates, expert certificates, stuff like that. And if you want to send emails, for instance, you want to send an email and block all users like a batch file, that you have a list of MAC addresses or usernames that you want to block. In a single click, you can save all those stuff in an Excel file and just upload it and block everyone at the same time. And this is configuration. This is where you would configure your workflows. For instance, this is my workflow that I created. Let me show you. So this is something which I custom designed using my background. You can change everything. So it could be your school's background page. It could be your school logo, name of your school, stuff like that, acceptable user policy, terms and conditions, and stuff like that. And the next step could be they could identify themselves as students, teachers, guests, whatever it is. For some kind of, for my demo purpose, I have employee, and the employee could be a corporate laptop or a bring your own device. If that's a corporate laptop, they'll be using an Active Directory username, password. Bring your own device, they will still use the same thing, but they will be authenticated. They will be put into a different policy. They could be connected to the same SSID, but they could go into a different VLAN, different rate limiting. They could be rate limited to 10 meg per, 10 meg, or they could have a different ACL settings, different filtering. They could be sent to light speed, stuff like that. So you could custom design your workflows based on how they authenticate themselves. Or it could be a social login. It could be part of guest-based authentication. They can log in using Facebook, LinkedIn, or Gmail. And hold on. So if that's a guest, if you don't want to use any kind of social login for authentication, if you want to go the traditional way of using a sponsorship, you have a voucher which people can get from a friend desk or something like that. You can also have a administrator who can create vouchers and give the vouchers, and they will be authenticated. And all these are radius authenticated, right? So you are going to have the secure authentication and certificates being installed. If that's an unsponsored, which is a common way of most of our guests are being authenticated these days with our customers, where they can give an email ID or a cell phone number, they get a one-time passcode, and they can use that passcode to log in. And they'll be valid based on how you set up. If your guests are going to be valid for 24 hours, they can definitely do that as well. Yep, so this is how it looks like, but how did I do that? So this is the workflow. So it's really easy to do it. You know, there are pre-built steps. All that you have to do is what step is going to go where. For instance, this particular where I have the terms and conditions it's actually let me actually try to create a workflow and show you how it looks like. So let's say this is going to be for a school. And get started. So it gives me a bunch of options. So that's all. I mean, it's really simple. These are the set of options that you already have, and this all that you have to do is which step is going to go where. So if you need to do, let's say the first step is going to be an acceptable user policy, terms and conditions. So I just added that. I already let's use an acceptable user policy, which I already created from my previous workflow. Then the second step, I could do something like an authentication, or I could say I want to ask if they are a teacher or a student or a guest. Then I split them into different branches. Let me use a new split, and I can come here and say this is for my school, and say what are the different options I want to ask. It could be a teacher, it could be students, and it could be guest. So now I have 3 different branches. So if that's a student, let's go to the student. Then I can insert a step here. Over here, I have multiple options, right? I can directly authenticate them. This could be Active Directory or LDAP or radius-based authentication. I can ask for username and password, or I could ask if they, let's go down. If I want to display a message, just like okay, you are authenticated, you are directly authenticated, or if I want to redirect them to a different URL, I can do that as well. Or if they are going to use a shared, if you want to keep it really traditional, go with a PSK or a passcode. You don't want a certificate, you can also do that. So let's say it's going to be a traditional authentication server. Then I can create any kind of, it's already there. It could be an Active Directory, it could be LDAP, radius, everything is here. So that's how it looks like. I can add any step here. Any of the branches, I can add any step. I can check for how many devices they have already registered. I can check that. So which you can restrict. You can say a student can bring only 4 devices. If they bring a 5th device, they have to either delete a particular or unregister a device which they already configured, or maybe not even able to add because they are violating the policy of having more than 4 devices. The device configuration is where you would actually differentiate devices. Like if you want to differentiate employees and guests, treat them differently, you can do that here. Let me show you. Add a device configuration. Let's say I'm adding something. So this is where you differentiate a wired versus wireless. So if you have a wired connection, maybe a conference room with a wired port, you can also use that here. And let me go here. The important one. So this is where you say these are the devices which can be allowed, or these are the firmware that can be allowed. So if you don't want to allow Chrome, you can say I don't want to allow Chrome. Or if I want to allow Android, I can say, because I know that some of the older firmwares have issue, it has to be 6.0 or newer. Then I can do the radius-based authentication and stuff like that. This is where I would check. So these are the basic settings which I already, which is pre-configured. But once I create a workflow, once I create a device configuration, I have multiple different options. But these are the pre-built list of posture checks that we can do. We can check if Windows updates are enabled, firewall is running, stuff like that. We can see if the passcode is turned on or not. But as I said, once you have a basic workflow, basic device configuration ready, then I have tens and 20s of more configuration or posture checks available. Pretty much, I have the radio server running on it, authentication server. I can have different Active Directory, LDAP, anything like that here. If I want to do a firewall or Lightspeed or IBOS-based integration, all those stuff can be done here. So that being said, if you have something else, we can definitely do it because everything is based on radius-based accounting information. So if you don't have Palo Alto or Lightspeed or IBOS, maybe if you have Cisco ASA or something, if you want to do some kind of integration, you can do it using a custom radius accounting. But this one, if you have a pre-built integration, that's really easy to do it from here. Sponsorship, if you want to see the guest sponsorships, friend desk or cell phone based vouchers, you will see all those stuff here. Certificate, this is where you have our inbuilt PKI. You can generate a certificate, or you can manage all the different certificate. For instance, I'll say employees are valid for 1 year, guest is valid for 1 day. So all my different policies are tied into the certificate. Everything is out here. Yeah, and you have your basic administration and licensing and diagnostic and stuff here. But it's really simple. And the last but not least thing I want to say is that it's not just for Ruckus Wireless. Even we have system where it automatically populates and give you information for what you can do with Cisco or Meraki or EuroHive or Aruba. You will see that all this stuff here, any type of documentation and integration with Cisco WLAN controller, integration with Palo Alto, Ruckus controllers and stuff like that. So that's it from me on a demo perspective. We'll be Darren and I, and also Brandon will be more than happy to take any questions that you have. And Brandon, you can take the control from me.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. And thanks, Darren, as well, for the first part of that. Yeah, if anyone has any other questions, let me know. I don't have any in the box so far. I did show my screen again just so you know how to contact us if you don't know. But we can certainly do a one-on-one demonstration, show you some pricing, answer any other questions one-on-one as well. So if there aren't any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us privately, and we'll see if this would be a good fit for you. So thanks again to Darren and Sharon and Ruckus in general. Ruckus has been a good partner of ours and will continue to be. So please reach out if you have any questions, and thanks again for attending. All right.